So it seems that Wes Streeting is trying to coup Keir Starmer, causing chaos in number 10 in another example of the utter calamity of this Labour government. Despite briefings from Starmer's team, Wes Streeting has denied any coup attempts. Wes Streeting has denied leading a plot to overthrow the Prime Minister and called for those briefing against him to be sacked, widening an extraordinary rift at the top of government. The Health Secretary condemned self-defeating attacks on him coming from Downing Street and said they were indicative of a toxic culture inside Number 10. He rebuked the senior aides behind the anonymous briefings and said they prove that there are people around the Prime Minister who do not follow his model and style of leadership. Now, Streeting's intervention came after The Guardian reported on Number 10 briefing against him. Starmer's most senior political aides warned that any attempt to oust the Prime Minister over tanking poll ratings would be a reckless and dangerous move that could destabilise the markets, international relations and the Labour Party. They insisted that Starmer would fight to retain the leadership in any contest that followed a challenge, either immediately or after the budget. More plausibly, following defeat at the May local elections. A bitter row broke out after Number 10 sources said they had grown increasingly concerned over speculation among MPs that Wes Streeting could be planning an imminent coup against the Prime Minister, a move fiercely denied by the Health Secretary. Now, this is Streeting on Sky News, responding to the reports.
You know, you'll forgive me for asking about the rumours of a coup. So what is going on? The allies of the PM saying that if there's a leadership challenge after the budget, the PM will fight it. So what, is there a leadership challenge? What's happening?
No, and I think whoever's been briefing this has been watching too much Celebrity Traitors, and this is just about the worst attack on a faithful I've seen since Joe Marler was kicked out and banished in the final. It's totally self-defeating briefing, not least because it's not true. And I don't understand how anyone thinks it's helpful to the Prime Minister either to suggest he's fighting for his job at a time when, last time I saw him on Monday evening to talk about violence against women and girls and how we tackle it, he's fighting for the country and trying to turn it around from the absolute mess that we inherited. So
what's your message then to people who have been briefing this? What would you say to them?
Well, firstly, I'd like to commend them for at least taking on board the feedback about sexist briefings, because we've seen this before. Lucy Powell, Bridget Phillipson, Angela Rayner could go around pretty much the entire cabinet table. So at least they're picking on one of the boys now. But in all seriousness, it doesn't help anyone. It's not true.
Now, Starmer responded to these briefings at PMQs.
Mr. Speaker, this morning on the BBC, the Health Secretary said there is a toxic culture in Downing Street that needs to change. He's right, isn't he?
Mr. Speaker, my focus each and every day is on rebuilding and renewing our country. But let me be absolutely clear, any attack on any member of my cabinet is completely unacceptable.
The video slightly cut off there, but obviously he said it's completely unacceptable. Now, some believe the briefing from Number 10 has backfired. Homelessness and prison reform advocate Matthew Torbett said, "Wes Streeting coming out of this smelling of roses. Hard to think of a bigger misstep by a Number 10 operation, even in these surreal recent times. You've actually likely united backbenchers with him and against you." I mean, this certainly makes Starmer look weak. Plus, I'm really sorry what I'm about to say here, but Wes Streeting does have more charisma than Starmer. Now, look, that's not hard, right? Because Starmer has zero, all right? The problem with Wes is that he's also very right-wing and, in my opinion, a horrible politician. Now, personally, I think Streeting is lying when he says there's no coup. It's obvious that he wants the job. Over the past few months, Streeting has, on rhetoric, tried to sound more left-wing to obviously try and woo the membership, including this: inspirational campaign and victory for Zohran Mamdani in New York City. Lessons for progressives the world over. I mean, come on! Their politics could be further apart. Now, more evidence that he wants the top job is a website domain that was registered and the landing page launched called for Wes for Leader. As you can see, the domain was also registered today. Of course, that's not proof that his team actually did this. It could have been a shit poster. It could have been a conservative or reform activist, or even number 10 to stir the pot, but it's funny regardless. Now, Barry Gardiner appeared on the BBC and he didn't hold back.
Why has number 10 circled the wagons?
Tell me why.
Why are they having to defend themselves? Well, the answer is very clear. Because this government, from the beginning, actually from before it was a government, has cared more about extirpating the people who disagreed with it than they have about setting out a clear programme and policy. And quite honestly, you know, everyday people looking at this tonight are going to say, oh, for God's sake, what do these politicians think they're doing? You know, you circle the wagons and you end up in a circular firing squad. That's what they're doing. And people want a government that is going to say, this is what we're about. They don't know. That's why our poll ratings are so low. I mean, Morris talks about a great majority. But actually, people are looking to this government and saying, what? What are you giving us? You had 10 pledges when you started off in campaigning to be the leader of the party. You've jettisoned them all. There is no clear programme. And actually, the public are fed up with it. And it's reflected in the poll.
I mean, I wonder if he'll lose the whip now for saying that. But I think Matt Zarb-Cousin summed up this story perfectly. Ordered David Miliband trying to coup Gordon Brown off of Temu, and I got Wes Streeting trying to coup Keir Starmer. Now, Owen Jones posted his theory on what's really happening. My theory, the number 10 briefing was designed to boost Wes Streeting. It's almost certainly Morgan McSweeney, Starmer's chief of staff, responsible. McSweeney is close to Streeting. McSweeney never envisaged Starmer becoming Prime Minister. Starmer was a means to destroy the left. He'd be used to con the membership by pretending to be left-wing and abandon those pledges and purge the left. That's what Starmer did. Starmer would then lose the election, but the party would be made safe for someone like Streeting to take over. But something unexpected happened. The Tories imploded, spectacularly so, handing Labour the election on a plate. As it happened, despite that, Labour only won a third of the vote on a disastrously low turnout. Farage saved them. Starmer has been a catastrophe in office because he has done exactly what McSweeney wanted. Oh my God, can't get his bloody name out. But McSweeney and his crew have briefed against their own boss, claiming he thinks he's driving the train. But they've actually put him at the front of the driverless DLR. They've convinced themselves the problem is Starmer is a dud. They want to save themselves. They know Andy Burnham is on manoeuvres and believe he will destroy their project and throw them out of power if he becomes leader. They're in a race against time. This number 10 briefing came the night before Wes Streeting was due to do a media round. It allowed him to put in a well-rehearsed performance that boosted his chances, as any idiot could have predicted. Streeting is on manoeuvres. This has helped him, and I think that was the plan all along. Do you know what? I think he's spot on. Yeah, I think it's clear that the Starmer project was to simply destroy the left and turn Labour into a completely controlled opposition. Harriet, what do you make of all this?
So we've got a completely controlled opposition under Starmer, who turned out to be the most dishonest politician since Boris Johnson, with his 10 pledges that he so quickly jettisoned. The completely controlled opposition has turned into a disastrously unpopular party of government, and now someone even less principled than Starmer is being boosted. I hope it's a gift to Polanski's Greens. It really should be. If Streeting is the replacement to Starmer, I'm so sorry. These people are not as smart as they think they are. Streeting, there's 528 seats between him and Leanne Mohammed in Ilford North. He might not have a seat in the next election. This is from Telegraph political editor Ben Riley-Smith, who tweeted, Wes is now more popular because he's so self-assured. He took my breath away in answering every question directly and with humour. And that's in response to Streeting's media round this morning, right? And this is the really simple stuff. It's coming across as human. It's making a few jokes about celebrity traitors. This is the stuff that Starmer finds impossible because he is an empty grey suit of a person. But also, this is the fundamental part of being a decent political communicator. Streeting can do it, yeah. Starmer's incapable, but that doesn't mean that Streeting is a better choice or a better politician. It just means that Starmer's in the minus numbers here. They are scraping the barrel. And you know what? It is because, as my colleague Aaron Bastani wrote in a column for Unheard today, the Labour right has been allowed by the media to play the game of politics on easy mode. And they have been allowed from day one to do this with so little scrutiny that it is actually laughable. Wes Streeting is, as we know, in the pocket of private healthcare. In 2024, last year, more than 60% of the registered donations that were accepted by him came from people and companies linked to private healthcare. And they don't do this, they don't give people money for the good of their health, no pun intended, or a little pun intended, because I do like puns. They expect a return on their investment. And it doesn't just stop there with private health companies. Wes Streeting is also bought and paid for by the pro-Israel lobby in this country. He is paid for by people who want to serve a foreign state. He's a supporter of Labour Friends of Israel, and he received at least 30 grand from Britain's pro-Israel lobby. That was found by a 2024 declassified investigation. And he was the first shadow cabinet member when Labour was in opposition under Starmer to visit Israel, and that trip was paid for by, no prizes for guessing, Labour Friends of Israel. So, Wes Streeting is the Labour right. He is reheated Blairism, and I'm so sorry, but this smarmy head boy energy on steroids, he would be just as comfortable in the Tories as he would in Labour. He is not an alternative. He is like the Blairite blue Labour centrist choice. But the one thing I would like to say about this now is that centrism is crumbling. And all these people who feel like centrism is the safe option, it's the middle road, as a wonderful colleague that I once worked with at The Independent, who I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, but she left because it was becoming so increasingly right-wing as a newsroom. She always says to me, centrists say they're centrists because they're too embarrassed to say that they're right-wing. And I think that's true. And I think that now in our political landscape, we actually have a choice between the real right and the real left. People who are right wing, who want a privatized health system, who are really anti-immigration, anti-trans, anti-Palestinian people not facing a genocide. They've got Nigel Farage. They've got Reform. They've got a proper party there that's going to do the things that they want. They don't want diet reform. They don't want Labour doing a little bit of reform. They can just pick Reform. And people who are disgusted with Labour, who feel really let down, who feel really lied to, who know that their promises that maybe they helped elect Starmer on with his 10 pledges, they know that they're not being fulfilled. They know they've been lied to. They've got the Greens. They've got Zach Polansky. And then maybe to a lesser extent, I mean, there's huge issues here. They've got your party. But they don't need Labour in the middle sort of being a little bit Tory, a little bit Reform, and not really pleasing anybody. And if Streeting's the best they've got, God help them. So sorry.
I mean, I can just imagine that Wes Streeting was a prefect at school. Head boy energy.
Yeah, he definitely was.
He definitely
was.
was.
Like that.
I haven't seen. Sorry, go on. I cut you off.
I was just going to say, on the point about centrism totally crumbling, Labour's vote share, we saw them sweep to power with this loveless landslide. Their vote share is evaporating. Half of the people who backed them in the last election, right, they won't give them the time of day again. They've moved away. They won't vote Labour again. And that's according to internal polling that's gone to Labour MPs and was seen by Politics Home. Labour MPs should be shitting themselves. They totally should. And if Streeting's the best they've got, it's not going to go well.
I mean, I've not seen that article in Unheard by Aaron Bastani, but he is 100% right when it comes to the Labour right. They do play politics on easy mode because the Labour right have got friends in the media, they've got friends in powerful places, and their mere existence was to destroy the left. And actually, we had Owen Jones on, nearly 2 years ago now. And what was, because, Owen's been around these people, and I asked him, what do you make of the Labour right? And he's like, they're bastards. They're soulless, horrible people. And I think it's absolutely true. The way they behave, and you can see it through the Labour leaks, you can see it through the Labour files. As individuals, they're also terrible people. But I think it's very interesting that Wes Streeting is seen as, probably from backbench MPs, as like the sort of light in the tunnel, which is clearly not. I do want to ask you though. Let's just say this all plays out, right? Starmer steps down in May, which I think is probable because he's probably get very poor local election results. Streeting is his replacement. You know, let's take off our left-wing hats for a second. Do you think, you know, this will put Labour in a better position in the eyes of the public? Because you did mention there that, look, Streeting is a better communicator than Starmer.
Yeah, Straighten's a better communicator, but is he much more likable? As soon as he started talking about celebrity traitors, I was like, get the celebrity traitors out of your mouth, man. They're not for you. They're for normal people. Like, I'm not a lobby journalist and I'm not a policy wonk, and I have not been around these people. I definitely see them from a sort of like outside perspective. And I see this level of like disingenuousness, smarminess, being like totally out of touch. Their whole project was to destroy the left within the Labour Party. They did. Now they have to govern. They can't do it. They're incredibly unpopular. All they can do is bleat about growth, 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 while people are just not feeling that difference in their pockets. They're doing nothing to address the affordability, cost of living crisis that is actually harming people in this country. I just see them as totally out of touch and really tough to watch sometimes in the way they think that the people who give them their vote can't see through this. And I think they presume a lot of stupidity on the part of the electorate, which I find very uncomfortable. And I really hope that in Streeting's seat of Ilford North, that comes home to roost. Because if there's one thing that people in the UK tend to be able to unite over, it's a real love of the fact that we don't have an American-style healthcare model. We have a free at the point of access NHS, which has lots of internal issues of its own, and many of those are down to years and years and years of underfunding under the Tories. But obviously nobody's saying the NHS is perfect, but we want to keep healthcare free at the point of access. And I think that Streeting is a very dangerous threat to that, just by looking at the people who put money in his pocket and the pocket of his campaign and his staff and running his office.
I do wonder if the wider public see what we see in Wes Streeting, which is someone who's so sure of himself, smug, and yeah, his pathetic little jokes. I think he thinks, oh God, I'm so in touch with the public. No, you're a dweeb.